Hello, and welcome to the Law Lab YouTube channel. Here we dissect and unpack everything legal. My name is Aaron Asiedu Entry. When you come to Ghana, specifically with regards to our criminal justice system, it starts by arresting the suspect, taking the suspect to court, prosecuting the suspect, and running through the criminal justice procedure until the person is convicted, and probably ends with the person serving the jail term or the conviction that will be given to him or her. But you see, there is a pertinent issue we are not discussing, that when the person comes out of prison, there is a lot of collateral consequences with regard to the imprisonment the person has gone through, that there will be some social stigma. You don't even get to occupy certain positions in the society. And so to help us to understand some of these collateral consequences that is related or associated with one being in prison, we have with us a fine academic. He's a solid gentleman I've known for years, and currently he actually teaches in the University of Newcastle in Australia. He's back in Ghana for some research work, and our team at the Law Lab was able to intercept his movement, and we've asked him to sit with us to actually take us through the collateral consequences and imprisonment. And so we have with us Dr. Frank Bafo Dakwa. We call him Dr. Bafo. Doc, welcome to the Law Lab.
Thank you for having me.
Right, I hope you are doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
How are you feeling in your own motherland since you've been away in Australia doing a lot of academic works, and now I think you are somewhat resident even in Australia? In law, we will say that you are domiciled in Australia, and your domicile is by choice. How is Australia too, and how are you feeling with your few stay in Ghana as you came?
Yeah, so it's always good to come back home, and I think it's an opportunity that the Law Lab is giving me for me to share some of the work that I've done.
Sure.
Especially this important one on collateral consequences. So yeah, good to be here.
Right. So, Doc, on one of your publications, why I picked this topic that you speak to is you wrote on criminal records and post-imprisonment employment in Ghana. That is criminal records and post-prison employment in Ghana. That is the paper I read, and I found it interesting. It is why I reached out to you, that anytime you get into the jurisdiction, we sit with you so that you also help us understand why you wrote this paper. What I know is that any academic who publishes a paper has actually found a gap, and he wants to write about that gap so that people in authority will take it up and also solve that gap and make our society a better one. So criminal records and prison employment or post-prison employment in Ghana, what is that gap you found, and why did you write this paper?
Okay, so with this particular paper, criminal records and post-prison employment in Ghana, it's actually the first of its kind in Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a country where we kind of, our social and moral issues makes it difficult for us to reintegrate people who have served terms in the prison. So I would say that issues regarding collateral consequences, that is people who are facing sanctions or restrictions, or who have been prohibited to engage in certain jobs in the community based on their criminal records. This is a major issue in Ghana because of stigma, the stereotype we attach to imprisonment. Yet, we do not have any academic or empirical paper on how this is done. how even people assess records on people's background for employment purposes or for criminal purposes. We do not have all these things. So,
Okay, Doc, we will go into that. But you see, what actually struck me when I was reading your research paper is that any law student who has read criminal law would talk of the concept of double jeopardy. And let me take my time to explain it. It is why I actually invited you that anytime you are in Ghana, we should be looking at this. You see, when we talk of the concept of double jeopardy, we are saying that one should not be punished twice for the same offense. One should not be punished twice. Should not be punished twice for the same offense, in the sense that, say, someone has been arrested, and there are two legislations. Let's say Act A and Act B. They all talk about the same criminal record or the criminal offense. What the law prevents is that do not punish the person under Act A and come again to say that you are punishing the person under Act B. Else that will be double jeopardy. So in law, we say outre for acquit and outre for convict. Also, when the person is acquitted, you cannot retry the person. You get it? That concept. Why that actually struck me is that now the point is the person has committed, let's say person A has committed a criminal offense. That person has been convicted, goes through to serve a jail term of, say, 10 years. He comes out of jail. And now there are certain legislation even prohibiting that person from getting into certain employment. I feel that the person is suffering twice for the same offense. That would be double jeopardy. So actually, when I was reading it, it's really struck me. And I like how you have also narrowed it down straightly to employment. But let me give you an opportunity again to explain what you actually mean about collateral consequence. But I clearly get the fact that some of the collateral consequences we see is the stigma in others. But if you can expand on it a bit for us.
Okay, so talking about collateral consequences, we are talking about regulations, regulations that prohibit people from assessing or getting certain employment based on their criminal conviction. So this person has committed an offense, they've served their term, and as we all know, the main purpose of imprisonment is to kind of rehabilitate the offender and make sure that they come back to the community as a reformed person, someone who is law-abiding citizen, and we can reintegrate the person back into the society.
So Doc, let me help you with this. You see, when you pick our constitution, Article 94, Clause 3, or Clause 2, and Paragraph C says that a person shall not be qualified to be a member of parliament if he, and the C says, has been convicted, for high crime under this constitution or high treason or treason, or for an offense involving the security of the state, fraud, dishonesty, or moral turpitude, or for any other offense punishable by death or by a sentence of not less than 10 years, or for an offense relating to or connected with elections under a law in force in Ghana at any time. So the point is, if you go through any of these, when you are being convicted for dishonesty, fraud, moral turpitude, if you've been convicted for any offense which its punishment is by a sentence to death or the punishment is not less than 10 years, or if you have been convicted in relation to any offense relating an election in Ghana by a law in force in Ghana, meaning you cannot be a member of parliament in this country. And by extension, definitely you cannot be a minister of state, because for you to be a minister of state, you should qualify to be a member of parliament before you become a minister of state. Then technically too, you cannot be a president. I am getting the point you are raising with regards to even the employment. You being a member of parliament, you are being employed by your constituents. And so, say person A has gone through a trial, has been punished for dishonesty. He has served that trial. Because I know the essence of punishment or punishing the person or convicting the person is to serve for the offenses the person has committed. And later, you are bringing this regulation, then technically you are it's a double punishment you are giving the person. Back in primary school, those who were class prefects, if you talk and the person writes your name in the names of talkers, and you talk again, you add DP, then you get TP, TTP, triple punishment, and others. So I think it's a good one. So that is one example you've given, that there are regulations that actually affect, that causes these collateral consequences of one being in prison, right? So you can proceed.
Okay, so those legislations are there in our constitution, but unfortunately, unlike other African countries, like in my paper, I mentioned South Africa and also Mauritius. So these are the two countries in Africa that they have a legislation governing collateral consequences. So, for example, with regards to Mauritius, the employment agency has every right to ask an employee to do a criminal background check. And if it comes out that the person has been imprisoned before, they can dismiss the person based on that. The issue with Ghana is we don't have that structured legislation governing collateral consequences. So what we found was that a lot of agencies, multinational agencies, and even private institutions in Ghana, or individuals, they kind of resort to other means of criminal background check. And I think that is where the issue is.
So now the regulation is one of the reasons we have is contributing to collateral consequence in relation to one being attached to or being in prison. Do you have any other form of factor that contributes to collateral consequence of one being associated with a prison?
Okay, so I've mentioned
the regulations.
Yeah, I've mentioned the regulations, and also there's this informal factor which I found in my research, and that has to do with poor records keeping in Ghana. So we found in the study that whilst people want to know the background of the people who are going to work in their organization, they really struggle to kind of get to know their background. So what they do is they go through this reference check. So that is word of mouth. They do this by calling somebody they trust in the community to inquire about the person's background, whether they've been to prison before or they've had any contact whatsoever with the criminal justice system. And that can be just being reported to the police and going there to write your statement. So this person who the organization contacts may use their biases or their presupposition to say that this person is not a good person. So and so day or year, they were involved in this and they were called to the police. And when this happens, it kind of influences the decision of the employer. Yeah, so the regulation can be the formal one, and those doing background checks can be the informal one. So regarding the informal one, we can also talk about licensing bodies.
Okay.
So, for example, in Ghana, we have the Ghana Association of Social Workers, or maybe the Ghana Bar Association.
The prestigious bar association.
So what happens is when they want to maybe when they want to call someone to the bar, they may ask the person to do a criminal background check. And if it happens that this person has been in prison before, or the person has had any contact with the criminal justice system, it may affect the person being licensed to that particular body.
That's true.
So that one can also be, I would say, quasi informal. Is quite a bit formal, but not fully formal. So actually, criminal background check was done to kind of support the court and also the prisons in making decisions about someone who has come in contact with the justice system. But now it has been assumed by employers, even landlords, and other bodies. And I think when it happens like this, it goes to affect, it has that lifelong consequences on the individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So, two things you have spoken on with regards to the collateral consequences that is associated with one being in prison is one, the regulation, and two, you are talking about the informal side. Is there any other? And probably we can look at the recommendation. I can see you are treating the recommendation alongside, but I would want us to actually look at it well. But is there any other form?
Yeah. So, there's another one, particularly in our part of the world, which we call courtesy stigma.
Okay.
So courtesy
A stigma that is courteous. So a courtesy stigma. Wow. I would like to listen.
Yeah. So courtesy stigma is what we call stigma by association.
Okay.
So because I have done something wrong, and you are my friend, you are also stigmatized because of your association with me. And this is endemic in Ghana.
Okay.
In our communities, sometimes we say, show me your friend, and I will show you your character.
Also, in the English parlance, they say birds of a feather flock together.
Fantastic. So what happens is these employment agencies or people who are responsible for employment, like managers and administrators, they try to prevent these individuals who have had contact with the justice system. They prevent them from working for them or being in the organization. And if I go back to my research, what we found was that some of the participants were saying that if I employ someone who has been to the prison before, they can come and corrupt the other employees. Others were saying that if that happens, these people may collapse my business. They may bring other people they know from the prison who have been released, or people they know in the community who engage in the same act to come and collapse, or to come and collapse my business. So a lot of these employers are unwilling to employ these individuals. And I think that is where the discrimination comes in.
Okay. So, Doc, one thing I want to find out that with regards to the courtesy stigma, Is there the case that throughout your research you got some of the respondents saying that, say, Kofi has not been in prison, but Kofi's best friend is Yao, who has been in prison. Now Yao has been freed or has been released from the prison. He's still working with Kofi. Because of Kofi's association with Yao, we will not employ Kofi, though Kofi has never been to the prison. Was there a circumstance like that?
Yeah, I didn't find anything like that, but I believe if we do a further research about which will look at just courtesy stigma, it may be the case that somebody may deny employing someone because of the association with someone who has been to the prison before.
Okay. So, Doc, the issues are clear with regards to collateral consequences in relation to imprisonment. It is a difficult one. Personally, I believe that in law, if you are looking at the law proper, you are rather punishing the person twice for the same offense. Probably with courtesy stigma, you cannot relate that to double punishment because it is my business and I choose who to employ. But our regulations, including our constitution, which is actually now stating clearly that some category of persons or people cannot become members of parliament and others. I think one thing also our Companies Act at 992, you see how huge it is. Section 13, subsection 2, paragraph H. Paragraph H also says that the application form, when you're incorporating a company, you should also have a statutory declaration by each proposed director of the proposed company indicating that within the preceding 5 years, that proposed director has not been charged with or convicted. Now the charge which is taken off has not been convicted of a criminal offense involving fraud or dishonesty. You see, even if the person has been convicted of a criminal offense in relation with dishonesty and fraud, that person may have served that jail term and now wants to incorporate a company, or someone is incorporating a company and wants to make the person a director. We have a direct regulation that is also becoming a stumbling block to discriminate that person from the society. So I think it is a very good area you are exploring. But the next question I would want to ask is the recommendation to respond to these collateral consequences you've raised in the, early on. I want to know what are the recommendations you are proposing, because if for nothing, well, I have completed university undergraduate. I did research in if I so recall, I did it in education, SDG goals in relation to the development of social studies curriculum in Ghana. That is what I did. And also in my master's, I was looking at migration issues, the effect of migration issues on indigenous business in Ghana. Using the Nigerian businessmen as a case study, you see them retail that is reserved for Ghanaians, they are in it, doing it. So I was up and about in Abosiokan gathering data. What I know with regards to research is that anytime you publish a paper, you must add recommendation, because that is the essence of it. You want to address a certain gap. So what are the recommendations that we need to address these critical gaps you've raised? The gaps are very serious. Our regulations is helping the collateral consequences. Our own courtesy stigma we put on people. Where free prison, your association with a person becomes a problem. People get to see the person in a different light, amongst others. Even in the informal sector you mentioned too, an employer may not trust certain data organizations, so would resort to going to the police for a character reference, or even going to the community by word of mouth. Unfortunately, you meet the person's enemy. And the person also says, so what are some of the recommendations you are proposing or you've proposed in your paper to address this gap?
Yeah, I think the first and most important one will be having a structured legislation.
A structured legislation.
For collateral consequence. So I mentioned...
Yes, Mauritius and South Africa. What are they doing different, or what are they doing that you think it is the path or the way Ghana should go?
Okay, so these two countries, they have a legislation for collateral consequence. And what it does is it states clearly when an offense should be expunged from the state's record, and when an offense should be concealed, or when an event should be concealed or expunged. So what we do not have is, we state this in our various legislation. We put it out there, and we don't have any time limit. But what a structured legislation does is, it comes in and say, hey, the person has committed an offense, and as a result, in addition to serving their term, there are certain prohibitions as well. But it is within this time frame. So, for example, I think the global standard is 10 years for adults, that is people who are 18 or above, and for juveniles, 5 years. But when you come to Ghana, in the Juvenile Act, I think, help me if I'm wrong here, 2003. That is where...
I should have the act. I should have it, but let's proceed.
Yeah, so that is where it states that when a child is convicted for an offense, it gives a specific time frame
to expunge
it, from the records. But when it comes to adults, we do not have it. So that is what I will encourage you lawyers that
I'm not a lawyer. I'm a law student.
Yeah, so those of you who are aspiring to become lawyers.
Sure, that one day I'm seriously aspiring to be.
Yeah, so I think I will encourage you guys to take this matter up and encourage a legislation that will clearly stipulate that if you commit an offense, because this is a global practice, if you go to any part of the world, collateral consequences there. But we should have a structured legislation to make sure that we are not going to embark on any lifelong discrimination against people who have served their terms.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, because I spoke to you about my research interest in what I call recidivism. That is going to the prison over and over again. And this has been, research has indicated that people who come out of the prison and they face all these barriers or obstacles, there's the high possibility that they may go back to the prison again. So if we want to reduce...
The person will be frustrated. And will then resort to the bad deeds that took him or her to the prison again. I get it.
So if we want to reduce our prison population, or if we want to promote law abiding in our communities, this is something we need to really look at and make sure that we are not going to promote any lifelong discrimination against these individuals.
Then the other recommendations. So this is one for the regulation side.
So I will also talk about education and sensitization. It's so important because in Ghana, or maybe I would say in our part of the world, stigma is endemic. It's a major issue. And I always talk about the fact that the prison system was imposed on us by our colonial masters. We had our own way of punishment, or our own way of our own penology. But since colonization, we have assumed this Western way of punishing people. So when the person goes to the prison, we feel that this is a bad person, in quote, and then it follows them throughout their life. So if we can educate people that the prison is there, not to create further criminals, in quote,
To
but
rehabilitate them.
is there to rehabilitate offenders. And if I say that too, I go back to the Ghana Prison Service, because they also have indicated that the primary purpose for imprisonment is to promote safekeeping, which I think needs to be reformed.
Okay.
And we should make rehabilitation the primary focus. We should provide the resources to ensure that rehabilitation is the primary focus, and educate the public that people go to the prison to be reformed. So when they come back to the community, we also play role in ensuring that they are reformed.
Right. Is there any recommendation for our agencies that do employ people and tend to be checking their background? Is there any recommendation in the research for them?
So I think that one was promoting proper record keeping.
Right.
So record keeping, I think the onus is on the Criminal Data Service Bureau.
Okay.
The ability to make sure that they gather efficient record keeping system, so that it's reliable and people can access it. So if I go back to my research, one of the issue was that they didn't trust the record keeping system of
Our country.
yes. So they will have to really improvise, and with the improvisation they were doing reference check. They will pick the phone, call somebody they trust in the community, and inquire about the person's background. And like I said, or you rightly said, based on their biases, or if the person is your enemy, it really affects or it influences what that person may say about this particular individual. And yeah.
Okay, Doc, thank you so very much. I think it's been an interesting one, and it's an eye-opener. I believe that when policy formulators do watch this, it will give a clear-cut information on how they would want to also formulate policies and also legislation around this. I think it's a good one, and we shouldn't end here. I don't know the next time I would have you in the Republic, even if it is via the internet. We will try to connect you up and have interesting discussions with you again. I don't know, basically I am exhausted with my questions, but if you have any few words to add up to it that we didn't cover, you may say it now.
Yeah, so I will just I will just talk about what I do.
Okay.
Because we write a lot of fantastic papers, published with very high-ranking journals, and come out with fantastic recommendations.
I think I should be writing papers with you.
Sure.
I'm hoping I will learn under you first.
Yeah, hopefully.
Sure.
Yeah. So if people can go on the internet to read some of the papers we've published. Some of them are open access. You will not be charged. And those of you who are in these institutions like University of Ghana, GEMPA, and other universities, I believe you have subscribed to all these databases. So you can access some of the papers. So
a quick search, how do they access it? They will just type your name?
Yeah, so if you type my name, Frank Dakwa Bafo, most of the papers have
we'll try and place some of your papers on the screen so that people would tend to read. We will have it on the screen so that the interesting ones that is open access, they can actually get it out. So you could clearly see on the screen that we have some papers from our guest, Dr. Frank Bafo Dakwa. Solid gentleman. Thank you, Doc, once again.
Thank you
for making time to speak with us on the Law Lab. We are so much grateful. So, guys, we are so much grateful for the time you've spent with us to discuss this collateral consequences that is related and associated with one being imprisonment. It's a being in prison. It is a delicate topic that we all need to pay attention to. You are punished to go to prison to serve a jail term. You come back and there are a lot of excesses that is affecting you. People, organizations tend not to employ you amongst others. Even within the society, when you are moving around, you get people pointing their fingers at you amongst others. It is a clear case that we have not done much as a country with regards to this, and we are hoping that as we move ahead, our governments, people in government, and also policy formulators would consider working towards this and bridge the gap that has been reviewed by this paper. I'm sure I'll get the paper to also share with us on our Facebook platform, amongst others. Thank you so much. This is the Law Lab. As I have always been saying, do subscribe, share, like, comment, and don't forget my my everyday statement. Do not leave all your matters to God. Take some to your lawyer. Your lawyer too must eat. Thank you.